Okay, we've just covered for loop in the previous session. So in this session, we're gonna look at a function. Okay, this function is called range. Right? What does range means, or what does this function actually do? This function actually generates arithmetic progressions. This goes back a little bit to your high school math, but best to illustrate by example. It iterates over a sequence of number. So we're using for loop along with range here. So if you look at this, now if this is what it says it does, it generates arithmetic progressions. We have range, and then within here, inside the keyword or the parameters that we provided here is 5. What do you think it's likely to do? Well, since it says it generates arithmetic progressions, maybe it just generates 5 numbers. Well, what kind of 5 numbers? Well, the only possible kind of logical conclusion is must be from 0, 1 onwards. Okay, so what we're doing here is that maybe this is actually generating a sequence of numbers, and we're using the for loop to print these numbers one by one. So let's run this, and yes, sure enough, it does generate a sequence of number from 0 to 4. In total, there are 5 numbers being generated. You can also use range to generate the so-called arithmetic progression by specifying the start, the end, and also the step. Step meaning the step 2 here, meaning if you start at 0, it would be 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay, step of 2. In this case, we start off at the low of -4 and end before 4. So let's run this. And this is what we have. Start with -4, step 2, -2, step 2, 0, step 2 to 2. And then the next one is equals to 4, so we need to stop. Okay, so this number specifies when to stop, okay, but not including that number itself. Coming back to our combination of fruit collection. All right, so okay, this is a slightly different variation from what we actually have looked at before. Notice that we're actually combining multiple functions. So let's start with the inside. We have fruit collection, which is the variable that we have. We have length. Remember, length just tell you how long the actual list or string is. In this case, we have 5 fruit collections, so that numbers become 5. Oh, basically, what does that mean? It means that it's range 5. Range 5 is what we've seen before, which is 5. So now this whole line, in essence, turn out to be like that. Okay, the variation is this one. Print I, well, since I is from 0 to 4, so 0 must be stepping from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And the fruit collection, we're combining with the index lesson. Okay, remember the index lesson that we covered previously under list? So index I will be, well, if I is 0, that would be pointing to apple, and then orange, and on it goes. So let's just print it and see whether it is as we suspected or not. All right, indeed it is. Hopefully that helps. A lot of time, try to study the code. And that's the beauty of Python. Hopefully it's readable at the very least. Even if you don't understand how the function works, it's readable. But as you do more and more, and as you write more codes, trust me, you will become more familiar with it. And then the code becomes second nature then. Right, the next thing we want to look at is it's a new method called enumerate. Okay, enumerate. Let me just see if I can actually bring up the definition here. This is one of the beauty of using Jupyter Notebook. Enumerate. Okay, so let's put a question mark. Does it tell me? Well, unfortunately, it doesn't. Well, I was hoping that it does. Also doesn't. Okay, so it doesn't. All right, what a pity. Usually if it's a method, it will, but in this case it's not. It's actually a helper function. So let's look at Python enumerate. Okay, so Python tips 0.1. Okay, this is basically this is tips here. So here you go. Enumerate is actually a built-in function of Python. It is useful. This cannot be summarized in a single line, yet most newcomers and even some advanced are unaware of it. Okay, It allows us to loop over something, have an automatic counter. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, so let me just copy that so that you actually have a definition of what enumerate is. Okay, enumerate, okay, allows us to loop over iterable items, okay, which is what we have there earlier in the for loop. So iterate, okay, items and have or generate, okay, and generates an automatic counter. So let's leave that there, and obviously we do need to actually reference this. Okay, so let's reference this so that we know we got this definition. Okay, so now if you click onto that, it will just bring up to that web page. Now we can close that off now. Okay, so there are two things that we have here. Remember earlier when we're actually iterating or doing a for loop over one item or a list like this, we only generate the so-called item itself. For your benefit, K here means key. V is the value. So we are using enumerate, or rather enumerate actually can generate both the key, index key in this case, meaning 0, 1, 2, 3, and also it provides the value in that list, which is the apple, orange, guava. So it will print 0 and then the actual item. So you have 0, apple, 1, orange, exactly that. Notice that this isn't exactly the same outcome as this. The difference here is that this code is a lot more complex. This is nice and clean, basically using the helper built-in function called enumerate. A couple other things to actually grasp here. Range is an iterable object. Iterable means that you can iterate over it just like a list. Okay. For statement is an iterator. It's the very method or function you use to actually go through. Okay. List is another example of an iterator. Okay. So what is a list? List is the first time we're seeing it now. So we have range of 4. Now, if you do just type range of 4, it's going to give you an object which doesn't mean anything. Okay, it's just range 0 to comma 4. Right, so if you have a list here, what it does do is that it converts this range to become a list. Okay, notice that it now no longer is an object like this, it converted to a list. Okay, and if we do list of the fruit collection, we get a list as well. Okay, so that's really the basic idea of what list does. Is list actually convert whatever that you have into a list. Okay, hopefully that's useful for you to understand this topic here, the range function. We also touch on list and just repeat the concept of for loop and finally enumerate. With that, I'm going to stop this video. Thank you for watching.